I don't know where the hard cutoff line is, but do you have a feel on that? Like, when do you actually get lost in the process if you don't commit 100% to your sport?
I really think that first year Bantam is really the key, especially in Western Canada, because of the Western Hockey League Bantam draft. I think every kid that you talk to knows about the Western Hockey League Bantam draft. You know, whether you support the Western League or the BCHL. I mean, I've coached in it, I played in it, you played in the Western Hockey League, unbelievable league. But the OHL and the Q, their draft is a year older. They let them develop a little bit more. So what is the right way or the wrong way? And I think, like you said, I think it's to each their own. But for me, you start going first year Bantams, and now you start introducing. That's when, for the most part, all these hockey academies that are out there, you know, that have Bantam opportunities for these kids. And now, to me, that's when it really takes off, because then that second year Bantam, it's all about the Western Hockey League Bantam draft, and there's a lot of great things to it, but there's also some things that I'm cautious with the Bantam draft, because a lot of good players have never been drafted that have gone on to play, in the NHL. And but the parents, they're investing, 30, 40, $50,000 a year in a first year Bantam component. So by the time they're out playing junior or playing the Western Hockey League, they've already put $200,000 worth of money into it. So it's a big circle. Like you said, I like the information. That's one thing I like about what you're doing. You played the game, you played at a high level, you represented your country. I've been able to play the game at a high level, being drafted in the sign of Pittsburgh, and just hearing so many voices. At the end of the day, I'm totally, that Bantam first year is a big kicker for me, whether a kid could go full time.
It speeds up a lot of things, right? Like when kids are leaving home, like when they, and even for the kids, right? The pressure of everything that's happening in that year. If you think you want to be a hockey player, these kids at 13 know what's going on. Like they know what their buddies are doing, and the 2 years ahead of them and 1 year ahead of them, and they know that there's bragging rights involved in the draft, and they're leaning on mom and dad to, like, this is where I want to get to. It's happening in my house right now. I have a 2009 that wants to get drafted next year, and he thinks he wants to play in an academy, and there's internal pressure on me of where I should let him play or not, right? So I mean, I totally get it. I get it from a hockey perspective. I get it from a parent perspective, and to your point, that idea that these now 13-year-olds, right? These 13-year-olds are like trying to position themselves for a 14-year-old draft when a third of the WHL is undrafted. A third of the WHL is undrafted, right? And that's the thing, is like, we're always looking like 6 inches in front of our face, really, right? And especially the kids, like they want it now and they want to get drafted right now, and they don't see 5 years in advance. That's a lifetime, you know what I mean? And most adults don't look that far in advance, but to slow it down would be nice, you know what I mean, for sure, because then it's not a race, and it's not a game. It's not a money game either, which I think is one of the biggest things that hockey's fighting right now, is, like, to your point, like the amount of money. Like there's people listening to this, is like, there's no effing way that they could pay that much, right? And there's just not, it's not even on the radar, right? And then there's some families that want it so bad that they're taking mortgages out in their house, and like there's all this stuff going on, and there has to be a better way, is all I'm saying. And I don't know what exactly that way is, but I think these conversations do matter, because at least in the background, I'm thinking about it, and you're thinking about it. And I mean, how do we do it? And how do we make it more accessible? And as much as we love it, like, I'm super passionate about hockey, there's definitely a way, I think, to have a healthier relationship with it, from the mental side, or from the financial side, or whatever side. So that's just where I want to find that sweet spot.
Well, and you're going to go, like you said, you got a young son that's already talking about it. And you know what? That's one thing. As soon as they hear they get drafted, everybody's tweeting it, retweeting it, Instagramming it. It's a pride thing, and it's kind of like a branding thing. Like the CHL is such a good league that they do a great job. Their games are on TV and everything else. And when you start growing up and you start going, okay, I mean, we got the Vernon Vipers in our hometown, great program. The BCHL is the top junior A league in Canada for college-bound athletes, and I couldn't agree more. I always say development, is not a race; it's a marathon, because that guy beside you might be better than you today, but doesn't have to be better than you tomorrow, depending on how much you dedicate yourself into getting better every day, and mentally, socially. And the most important thing for me, where everybody gets lost, is they put the schooling to the side. And that's a big problem for me. I'm seeing a lot of that the parents are so focused in them wanting to play in the NHL. Or I think, I mean, maybe 1% of all registered minor hockey kids in North America are going to make the National Hockey League. So what are they going to do when they're done? Well, they need an educational fall back on. The Western Hockey League has a very good educational package. The NCAA has a very good educational component. And I tell my guys, you can be a better hockey player once your education is great, because then you have something to fall back on. And trying to tell these kids at 13, 14, 15 years old, when they get to be my age or your age, going, hey, like, you know, we were pretty lucky. We were able to get a paycheck in the game, but that doesn't happen all the time. And right now, the parents are living the NHL dream, where the kids got to realize they got to take the baby steps, and hopefully one day they're going to figure out this financial thing. But I don't know about you, Jason. Last time I checked, you go into a sporting goods store and you're paying $1,000 for a pair of skates without steel. So you're paying $300, $400 for a stick, or, you know, it just goes on and on and on. And like you said, I know families that have taken second, third mortgages out for the kids to play it. I think that's one of the biggest problems in hockey society now. It's just the rising costs of it. And I just don't know how some parents do it. I mean, I had to do it with my son, Logan. He went to POE, which is now the Rink Academy, but I had to go work there as a director of hockey there just to afford it. And I still had to pay $8,000 a year just in travel costs. So how some of these parents do it, but you know what? The more money you have doesn't mean your son's going to play at a higher level. It might give you better opportunities to get better, but the son, the daughter, the player has to want it first and foremost.